Today, the term Karen is widely used to describe individuals who display irrational and extreme rudeness, such as those who complain to the manager over a minor mistake by a waiter or shout at someone in the street for trivial reasons. While this discourteous behavior may be increasing, thanks to widespread smartphone documentation, it's important to recognize that rude people have always existed. Maybe you have heard about Emperor Nero, who is mentioned as one of the worst Roman emperors in history. Nero's reign was marked by atrocious acts, including the killing of his mother, wife, and even the Stoic philosopher Seneca. While the people we encounter today may not be as malevolent as Nero, they often exhibit a small-scale tyranny, attempting to control the uncontrollable and impose their self-centered perspective on the world. A world without such individuals may be conceivable, but it's unlikely to happen in our lifetime. Therefore, the question becomes, how can we handle them without compromising our own character? In this video, I will provide you 5 Stoic tips for dealing with the most challenging and rude individuals. Tip number 1. Give people the benefit of doubt. Marcus Aurelius once said, "I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." Even with the authority to exclude unpleasant individuals from his presence, Marcus Aurelius began each day by preparing for encounters with them. He reminded himself that people are often selfish, impolite, and irritating, aiming to avoid being caught off guard and reacting with indignation and shock. Another part of this practice includes pausing to understand and share the feelings of those who display impolite conduct. In line with the sentiments expressed in David Foster Wallace's "This is Water" speech, the objective is to avoid immediately and instinctively perceiving the rudeness of others as a direct personal attack. Instead of presuming ill intentions or selfish motives, the emphasis is on exploring different viewpoints. On most days, if you are attentive enough to grant yourself a choice, you can opt to view a seemingly unpleasant person differently. For instance, the ugly and irritating woman in the checkout line may not usually behave this way. Perhaps she has endured sleepless nights caring for a husband with terminal bone cancer. Alternatively, she might be the low-wage clerk at the motor vehicle department who recently assisted your spouse with a bureaucratic issue through a small act of kindness. While these scenarios may be unlikely, they are not impossible. It depends on what you choose to contemplate. If you automatically assume you know the absolute truth and operate on your default setting, you may miss out on possibilities beyond annoyance and misery. However, if you learn to pay attention, you'll realize there are alternative options. You can choose to perceive challenging situations not only as meaningful, but even as sacred, filled with the same force that shaped the stars: love, fellowship, and the mystical interconnectedness of all things. Keep this perspective in mind when faced with everyday frustrations, waiting in line, dealing with traffic, or encountering someone who irks you. You have no insight into their reality or experiences. How much more empathetic and patient could you be if you did? Or better yet, if you extended them the benefit of the doubt. Tip number 2, rise above. Don't retaliate. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. Things can't shape our decisions by themselves." It's crucial to understand that adopting a Stoic mindset doesn't imply passive acceptance of everything in life. Stoics were not weak or passive individuals. They simply recognized the absurdity of seeking revenge. As Seneca advised, it's wiser to take the opposite approach. Returning harm for harm is an irrational thing. Do you kick a mule in retaliation if he kicks you? Do you bite a dog in return if he bites you? No, right. When faced with insults, Cato chose to ignore them. Epictetus, when confronted with offensive remarks, reminded himself that becoming upset was his own responsibility. He even humorously suggested that if people truly knew him, they would be even more critical. Similarly, when Marcus Aurelius's character was attacked, he advised himself, "The best revenge is not to be like that." It's a valuable lesson to remind yourself of. You don't have to form an opinion on everything. You don't need to escalate minor issues. You don't have to respond in kind. Tip number 3. Step outside of yourself. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Think of substance in its entirety, of which you have the smallest of shares, and of time in its entirety, of which a brief and momentary span has been assigned to you, and of the works of destiny, and how very small is your part in them." We've all experienced the intensity of the moment when someone cuts us off on the freeway, speaks rudely to us, or is simply unpleasant to be around. In these instances, our emotions can flare up, making it difficult to recognize ourselves in the mirror. We transform into someone else entirely, consumed by the belief that we've been wronged. It is during these moments that adopting the Stoic perspective becomes valuable. As Marcus Aurelius suggested, take the view from above. The Stoic principle of sympathia serves as a helpful guide when dealing with unpleasant individuals. It encourages us to see the bigger picture. When confronted with rudeness, the impulse to retaliate or put someone in their place often arises in the heat of the moment. However, this impulse is not reflective of our true selves. Rather, it stems from an inflated sense of self-importance. It's essential to resist this urge, as damaging our character is not worth the fleeting satisfaction it may bring. Tip number 4. Strive to be indifferent. Marcus Aurelius once said, "To live a good life, we have the potential for it if we learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference." Emotions wield considerable influence, and it's understandable why many of us succumb to them. However, the cost of lowering ourselves to someone else's level is much higher than if we cultivate self-control. In Stoicism, the emphasis on control typically revolves around managing our own reactions rather than attempting to control others. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, before starting his philosophical journey under the guidance of the cynic Crates, he struggled with anxiety and concern about others' opinions. According to the tale, Zeno, having survived a near-fatal shipwreck, roamed anxiously through the city of Athens, troubled by concerns about others' opinions of him. Crates, recognizing his concerns, devised a solution. One day, Crates instructed Zeno to carry a clay pot filled with lentil soup through the bustling potter's district. Nervous about attracting attention, Zeno attempted to hide the pot beneath his cloak. However, Crates noticed and promptly approached Zeno, smashing the pot with his staff. He observed as the soup splattered over Zeno's clothing. Comforting him, Crates remarked, "Courage, my little Phoenician. It's only a little soup." Seneca would argue that while it's preferable to be rich and tall rather than poor and short, the Stoic remains indifferent when fate determines these aspects. The strength of a Stoic lies in their ability to make the best of any situation. This mindset is crucial in dealing with people. Expecting constant respect from others inevitably leads to disappointment. Instead, we should prepare ourselves for reality. And, as Marcus once advised, choose each day to remain unharmed. As long as we remain indifferent to others' opinions, we cannot be harmed. Tip number 5. Accept that rude people are inescapable. Marcus Aurelius once said, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." It's remarkable to consider that even as an emperor, Marcus had to deal with impolite and arrogant individuals. This underscores a crucial point. Rude people have always existed and can be found everywhere. Marcus prompts us to ask ourselves, is it possible to have a world without shameless, foolish, mean, or insensitive people? The answer is no. Accepting this reality, he advises against expecting the impossible. The world will always have its share of shameless, vicious, untrustworthy individuals, and acknowledging this fact fosters greater tolerance. In essence, we must acknowledge that unpleasant people are a constant in life. Choosing the high road entails responding to rudeness with indifference and empathy. Consider the underlying hurt or insecurity that drives someone to be rude to another. Adopting this mindset aligns with Stoic principles, avoiding the paths of revenge, anger, or aggression, which only contribute to a worsened world. What it boils down to is recognizing that you have a choice. As Epictetus noted, every event has two handles, one that can be grasped and one that cannot. If someone wrongs you, don't seize the handle of the wronging, for it cannot be lifted. Instead, take hold of the other, that this person is your brother, that you were raised together, and then you will have a handle that can be lifted. Knowing there are always two handles, which one will you choose to grasp? If this video was beneficial to you, consider subscribing to the channel for more Stoic content. See you soon.